And so this is a very smart theme. I know from personal experience. No, this didn't happen to me. I'm not indecisive. This happened to someone else. It resulted in him hanging himself. Now, it might look like people first stabbed him and then they made it appear as though he hanged himself. But no. He felt so guilty about wanting to testify against me that he felt the desire to hang himself. Because, of course you don't do that. Because I'm a wonderful person. I'm fighting for the Catholic cause. By killing all non-Catholics. And isn't that in the end what God would want me to do? Didn't Jesus clearly say that pagans don't need a doctor, they just need to be buried? Or maybe he said they did need a doctor, but then again, doctors kill people all the time, don't they? So, it's basically the same thing. So, this is a very smart theme, as it is true that if you involve yourself in an immoral world, you will be faced with people who don't respect your morals, and you'll in the end become conflicted, and it will also conflict with your religious ideas. You'll have to convince yourself that what you're doing is okay, and you will start to feel more and more guilty, and you will in the end not be able to escape these feelings, and because you're not fit for this world, you will be too indecisive to do something about it, and you will make powerful enemies, so you will make enemies you cannot fight back, you will not be able to do anything, so you will be powerless and scared, and in the end, when you cannot properly make it in this world, you will also start to focus more on the moral aspects, and if you don't allow yourself to be open in a relationship, this can only make you all the more lonely because you cannot really share your feelings with people, and if you involve yourself with corrupt people, in the end they will try to get you to be involved in these corrupt businesses as well, so you will also be angry, you will be conflicted, and if you keep being indecisive and not doing the right thing, you'll feel restless, and you'll also feel feared in this world, and you'll feel overwhelmed. So this was a very smart theme. Not choosing what world you want to be in will in the end totally destroy you and will make you indecisive. So this was a very smart theme. Again, I know, because I made the breaking process slowly. You see, the trick was first I blackmailed him, talking about how this has also resulted in the death of his wife, and what his children would think. And then I talked about the fact that his parents were Calvinists and believed in very strict rigid morals, but at the same time, that he believed in a modern interpretation of love. So how is he gonna combine the two? And of course, it resulted in him hanging himself. Of course, after he wanted to turn me in for stalking him, but in the end he realized that would be wrong because it would be immoral, so he stabbed himself with a knife 4 times in the chest and then went up to a chair and hanged himself. That's exactly how it happened. Oh, and he also punched himself in the face a couple of times and then punched himself in the total opposite position like he was struggling with someone, causing a teeth to fall on the ground, which didn't have his DNA on it, but it was his. He just had bored someone's teeth. Yes. Yeah. So on to the next theme. There's also a great theme about friendship in the film, which we can clearly see in the relationship between Cole and Stan. We see that people often think that relationships will just last forever, even if they don't work on them. Because Cole is very closed off towards Stan and doesn't share anything with him, is critical and controlling, and also just is very critical towards his playfulness, and is generally not really that nice sharing stuff with him. And we see that people will then eventually turn against us and will look for other people to work with. And we see that Stan does so, and that it's good to try to make apologies, but that you shouldn't do that at too late a point. That's also wrong to assume that you even have a strong relationship if you don't know each other, that just because you work together and are friendly, you automatically are positive. Cole sees all the people around him at first as friends, but he's so closed off that he doesn't bond with any of them, and therefore we see that people often way too quickly assume that they have people that truly care about them, that truly care about them, even though they aren't that supportive. And we see that that can really hurt someone and break apart a relationship. And we see also how that goes even further, because we also see that a lot of people are so naive that they assume that people they work with and that they mutually benefit from each other, that those are automatically also their friends. Well, Stan indeed cares for him a little, but is still also just very interested in making money. And the other people he works with just want to make deals with him and are just prostitutes that are paid to do stuff with him and that don't really care that much about him at all. They're friendly, but that's just to keep up good appearances. And Cole's so naive as to think that they actually care for him, even though his friends quickly turn against him, steal his tapes, and is also so naive as to still trust that he can at some point let his guard in, even though in this profession he can never do that. And so Cole makes the mistake of not being consistent enough. He wants to feel secure, but at the same time also wants to be able to let his guard in. We can never do that, especially if you work in a business like this, because we see that if you're in a place where a lot of money is to be made, people can often betray each other. Even the director's assistant does it with him. People are often polite, but this is just to keep up appearances. And people can be three-dimensional. They can have a little bit of kindness in them, and they aren't just keeping up a mask of niceness while being purely evil. People aren't that one-dimensional, at least not in good movies or in real life. But in the end, the greed will come first to them, and then they'll just actively decide to betray you, because his friend does try to smooth things over a little by offering a fun after you spout on them. But in the end, people can be very insensitive towards your feelings, and you really have to watch what friends you make and who you want to trust your secrets with, and whether you want to trust your secrets with someone or not, and whether you in the end want to feel secure in a safer place and thereby still be able to bond with people, or whether you want to work in the dangerous business but then be all alone, or whether you actually want to trust people in the dangerous business, which is of course just being naive and is once again not making a proper decision. I mean, how stupid would somebody be, for example, if he did like collaborations with some kind of reviewer that is clearly a psychopath, and he then thinks that he actually cares about him and is not secretly using his contact with him to spy on him and learn where his house is so he can use it as an operation for bombing plans. Yes, this trust watcher is a dick. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna have to send positive bet? Yeah. You're gonna have to persuade Carl Norton to be nice to Order of the Phoenix, and make clear that if he doesn't, he will never ever be able to have children. And if he doesn't have the desire, make clear that I mean with that that I'm gonna cut his balls off, so that this is not a metaphor for sterilization. It's gonna be a very painful death. Or maybe it's not even gonna be a death, we're gonna leave him alive. Make that clear. Also, please send him a gift of, I don't know, some nice Sinterklaas presents. Yes, by the way, it's Sinterklaas, not Saint Nicholas. We call him Sinterklaas. Your word Santa Claus. Oh, sorry, should look at the screen. Your word Santa Claus. Santa Claus is based off Sinterklaas. That's the original holiday. It actually comes from the Netherlands. It's one of the few cultural relevant things we did, along with apartheid and Calvinism. So I quickly want to make clear one thing. It's our holiday and I can just call him Sinterklaas. But send him some presents with that, because that can show our friendship. And also poison the chocolate. Just for funsies. Of course, since we still have to do the Harry Potter reviews, don't make it painful. I'm so quirky. Unlike Robin Williams in that movie. Patch Adams. Equally funny, equally disturbing. I know that wasn't a cheap reference. Go fuck yourself. Also, we see that often closing ourselves off from friendships comes as a result of the fact that we just never allowed ourselves to open up to them, and never got good experiences with them, as he in fact hit a friend of his dad when he was very young, that we're just too afraid and closed off, and that this only makes our depression even worse and makes us less capable of making good friendships. The skull is very socially awkward. And we also see that if we don't appreciate the nice little things like the present he got, that we only become all the more cranky and stressed. And that in the end, it's very important to realize that a nice appearance is an indication that somebody can actually be trusted. And that by being so naive, we certainly don't belong in the spying business, even if we're the most skilled person ever. And so this is in fact a really smart theme, because it is true. If you're in a corrupt business, you cannot really trust anyone. You shouldn't be naive and think that if people act nice, they are nice. Often people can act very nice, but truly be despicable from the inside. And sometimes people can act despicable, and they just start playing despicable. Like me, but they're still incredibly entertaining. Okay, maybe not entertaining, but insightful. Or just a good ripoff of Oz, that guy, and who doesn't love that? The answer is no one. No one doesn't love that. Everybody thinks it's fantastic. Who comes from Poland. And I'm drawing this out way too long. But so the point is, nobody should be naive to think that if you're in a corrupt business, that you can actually befriend anyone. People are just keeping up appearances. And what you see isn't always what you get. And what's also very important to realize is that if you want to truly be able to let your guard down, you should find people that you can truly trust. And that you should go all the way with a relationship. And that you should mutually care for each other. And it is indeed important in a relationship to give. And to truly build something that you can work off. And to also be able to have someone that understands you. Because as we see, Stan doesn't understand him and makes very mean jokes about his religious attitude, and we should truly care for someone, and people can care about us a little bit, and yet most people are very grey, but often choose for the selfish path when it comes down to it. Most people are just pragmatic, so this was a very wise and smart theme. There's also a very smart theme about learning from the past and about forgiveness. Cole never truly forgave himself what happened to those people. He allows it to continue to haunt him and to make him stressed. He's confronted with it. People act like it's easy to get over, but as he's someone with a conscience, it's not. But at the same time, he doesn't learn from it by changing his profession. He does confession for it and asks for forgiveness, but he doesn't really do penance, as he doesn't really change. And this goes together with the religious theme very well. It's doing penance while not really meaning it. It's saying you're sorry but not changing your acts, and due to this you make the mistake of doing it again. And because you aren't willing to truly see what you did wrong, you try to not feel guilty about something you did by acting like you are sorry for it, but you don't really do something about it because you still don't admit that it was due to your own actions, because Cole constantly tries to deny it. And we see that as a result we will just make the same mistake again, and that often if we ponder if we can be forgiven, that's also because we aren't sure if we are capable of forgiving ourselves, and we see that we should also forgive ourselves to be able to forgive others, because Cole doesn't really forgive himself, and as a result is very cranky and also mean towards Stan, and only alienates people around him, and as a result is also very cold and detached. And we also see that by not learning from it, it just happens again. Often we need to learn from reality that happened to us, and we also see that if we don't truly regret our actions or truly admit we were wrong, like him with his relationship with his girlfriend, that then things can just continue to go wrong, and that we cannot truly act upon our regrets to change them, because he feels sorry for the fact that their relationship broke up, yet he's still just pondering whether she would forgive him, not really doing anything about it, because he still doesn't want to change his ways. And we see that we need to be decisive and do the hard thing to truly change the ways around, like he could have done by just destroying the tapes, but he doesn't. And we see that therefore by being indecisive and by pondering on the past but not doing something about it, we allow it to hunt us the most. And we see that this also happens in relationships, because this happens a lot in general, as the director is being cheated upon, but instead of just breaking up with her immediately, he allows himself to be involved in a conspiracy and just mistreats her the same way that he did, causing her to break up with him by now just having her be spied on and spying upon her boyfriend, and is therefore hurt, and her girlfriend betrayed him, but instead of making up with him, she also just murders him. It's also the process of escalation. And so this is also a really smart theme. And this is true that people who ponder on their mistakes but are not really willing to be decisive are the ones who suffer the most. Like people who constantly go back and forth between religions, between political views, or who live in a crime world but don't truly change or act upon it. Like we also saw in the film Carlito's Way, which is not a rip-off of Scarface, by the way, and it's a fantastic movie. Shut up, and who cares that it isn't full of violence? It was a more sophisticated crime drama. It was like a deeper sequel to Scarface. There was nothing wrong with it. The casino is underrated as well, by the way, and I know I've already talked about it, but you still haven't changed your viewpoint. So why should I have to change my jokes? Now I know what you're thinking, because you're entertaining me here and I'm not spouting my views on the web. Actually you are. All of you people on IMDb, all of you people who make amateur reviews, yeah. And I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, don't you make amateur reviews? No! This is top quality art. Just like Troll 5. Yeah, that's a mindfuck. Yeah, blood is coming out of your nose right now, right? Doesn't that happen with anyone who experiences a mindfuck? Or who sustained brain damage after hitting a plane in the water stuff when things crashed and you tried to assassinate someone in Bond James style. Yeah, me smarty. Where was I talking about again? So what you need to do is truly admit what you did wrong, do something about it, just experience the guilt and try to change your ways, instead of coming up with excuses and wanting forgiveness while not really accepting forgiveness. And if you forgive yourself, you can indeed be a lot nicer to others. Forgiving yourself is the key to being nice to others, like in that other underrated movie. Yeah. Quantum of Solace. That was a good James Bond movie. It was a great sequel to Casino Royale. Daniel Craig is great in each of the films. The action is top notch, and film as Adam was right. It was underrated. And Skyfall was as fantastic as everybody said. It was just a great trilogy. But it's not really a trilogy. It's kind of 3 films in the series, but it doesn't really count as a trilogy unless it has a trilogy structure. A lot of people call the Spider-Man films trilogy, even though there was intended to be the 4th, and the 3rd one wasn't really an ending. So I think that was kind of incorrect. And if you also really think about it, X-Men: The Last Stand wasn't really the cap of a trilogy either, because it's part of a larger series. It was kind of its own 3-part stories, but X-Men First Class can be said to tie close into it. Although Wolverine really is kind of very closely connected to the first film, but then again, it's a prequel, so you could say that this is the original trilogy. But unlike Star Wars, we don't have a prequel trilogy, so I don't really see the overall relevance of it. But if you look at it, Luthor's theses were very inconsistent with those of Calvin, yet they claim to have a common philosophy in sola scriptura. So overall, we can come to the conclusion that Lucas bashing is totally wrong. Yes.